Oh, my name is Larry Strachan. I'm born and raised here in Winnipeg. I am the um, artistic director of what's called Chamber Orchestra Mosaic, which is the ensemble which is supported by the organization Chamber Orchestra Without Borders Incorporated, which I founded back in 2005 or 2006 thereabouts. And yeah, so I'm just a local musician, pianist. I do write music on occasion. I'm in this concert here with other professional composers. I do not see myself, I'm definitely not of that ilk, but the Randolph Peters of the world and whatnot. So I feel very fortunate to be involved in this concert. So I do write music on occasion. I also, I've been an adjudicator in the past and a lecturer. I've done a number of lectures at McNally Robinson bookstores for their series there. So, unfortunately, fortunately, I had one that was canceled by COVID, and hopefully, back, starting in the fall, I'll be doing a series of those again. We'll see what happens there, but yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
And we're so excited to welcome you back to the MCO in March, and the ensemble will be performing your piece Lament for the Souls of Sauteurs. Actually, before I even go on, I should ask you my pronunciation of that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. Actually, that's part of my notes here. The pronunciation, which is something I did not list on, the score, which I probably should, because it's an unusual pronunciation. I mean, it looks like Lament for the Souls of Sauteurs. It's a French word. And, there's the history in Grenada of, if you go to the island of Grenada, you'll notice a very strong French presence throughout the island, with the various places in the island that have French names, but they're not pronounced that way. Of course, we're going back to when the island was occupied by the French, and then it changed hands to the English. To the British hands. So there's this co-mingling of the French and English. I mean, English is the language that's spoken on the island, but in the Caribbean, with their Caribbean dialect, and of course, then you add the patois type pronunciations. What you get, instead of Sauteur, you get Soltaires. So it's really Lament for the Souls of Soltaires. That's how it's pronounced in Grenada. And it's Soltaires is basically the location where I might get into this a bit later, but it's a town in the northern tip of the island. 2005 was the last time I had visited Grenada, and it was that time where I had visited Soltaires, the town, and had lunch there with my family, with my wife, and my mom was there at the time as well. And afterwards, we sort of went to the location where the event, as listed in the notes for this concert in 1651, where in order to evade capture by the French, the original Carib people, the indigenous people of the island, left to their deaths, and they have a plaque sort of honoring the spot where they believe this event had occurred. And so obviously this made a big impression on me. I mean, standing there and just trying to process this incredible, terrible event that happened. And so this is 2005. So some years later, a couple years later, 2007, 2008, I was preparing to do a Black History Month concert with Chamber Orchestra Mosaic. It was our really first official concert. I had done a concert in 2006, I believe, and that was sort of a precursor to what before Chamber Orchestra Without Borders was officially founded. So 2008, we did our first really official concert with Chamber Orchestra Mosaic, and I really wanted to have something Canadian on the program. I was music by Black composers. The theme was sort of was around beginning in Africa and returning to Africa, kind of thing. Or Journey to Africa. I think Journey to Africa was the name of the concert. But I wanted to have a Canadian presence on the program of the composers, and I couldn't think of any other Canadian composers. So I'm like, well, I guess I have to write a piece. I have to write something. And I'd only written, I had, for the previous incarnation, I'd written a short little piece for strings and steel drum. Actually, it was sort of a paraphrase of a Mozart aria from the black character in the Magic Flute. I sort of took his aria and sort of played around with it. So so for this concert, I'm like, well, I need to write a piece, and immediately my thoughts turned to being in Soltaires and being on that hill and that high mountain, top, and looking down at the long precipice below, like the rocks, the sea, and thinking of that event. And that just came to my mind, and I just felt like I needed to memorialize that event in music. And so that's how that came about. And then we premiered it for that Journey to Africa concert in April 2008. So that's mostly what the piece is about. It's a memorial, sort of memorial to the people. It's sort of a dual memorial to the Indigenous people that lost their lives in capture, in a terrible act, but also in a heroic act at the same time. I feel they were not going to be, they were not going to let themselves be captured. They were going to, make the ultimate sacrifice in order to evade capture. And with that, also the secondary part of that is also, the importation of African slaves, which was to replace, that the Indigenous people that were no longer there. And so there's that dual, tragedy there. So, so it's basically memorial. There's nothing, I didn't use any particular Caribbean themes or any particular, maybe Indigenous. It's basically just my own interpretation of the events and my own sort of pseudo romantic language. I write in a very kind of romantic style, and that's how I kind of approach this piece.
So the work is written for string orchestra, consisting of violins, viola, cello, double bass. But our audience will be interested to know that you've written a number of works for voice and choral works. And of course, I want to mention that for your choral work, Saint Cecilia Anthem, you were awarded the Francis Seaton Award by the Manitoba Choral Association. So congratulations. Yeah, and tell us a bit about what inspired or prompted you to write for singers.
Yeah, because I'm not, I don't consider myself a singer. For say, I've been a chorister for many years. I'm a member of the Resound chamber choir. I've been a member of that choir for going on close to 20 years now. And I sang in the conservatory choir back during my graduate studies in Virginia at Shenandoah Conservatory. I wanted to sing during my studies at the University of Manitoba. There was a St. John Singers group I wanted to join, but I was a violist in the University Orchestra, and the rehearsal time conflicted, and there's no way that the music director was going to let me, being a viola player, I had to be a member of the orchestra, which I didn't mind. I loved being part of the orchestra, but I kind of regretted not having a chance to sing with the St. John Singers. So I wanted to do that as well. And during the 90s, I had formed a vocal ensemble at what's called Blessed John 23rd Parish, now where my parents attend. I'd formed a vocal ensemble there. So I'd always been interested in the voice, and then probably began with my first year at University of Manitoba, being an accompanist and playing Schubert songs. I think Schubert songs they're the greatest leader. He's the greatest leader composer, and those songs are just so incredible. And I just having to do accompanying class and having to work with singers. I later on started to do a lot of accompanying with singers, performing in festivals with a lot of singers. And even after I graduated from U of M, for some years after that, I was still accompanying a lot of singers. So I just loved the art song form. So I started writing art song. Just a little tidbit. My birthday, I share a birthday with Robert Schumann, who's like who's like the second greatest leader composer of all time. So I don't think I realized that until some years later, after I already started writing a few songs. I'm like, oh, there must be a reason why. There must be a reason why I enjoy writing for the voice. Yeah, so I've written a number of art songs for piano and voice, and choral music. Well, like I said, I formed a choral ensemble at my parents' church, and I started writing a couple pieces for them there. And so I've always had an interest in either the single voice or just the combination of voices, having sung and continue to sing in choirs, and I still sing at church choir as well, Holy Trinity Church downtown. I've been a member of that choir for a long time, so I enjoy singing and hearing the voices, and gives me, and working with words. It's just for me. I seem to find the musical ideas I want much easier when I'm working with text. When I can see a text, I can almost instantly, most of the time, have a great idea of how I want to start the piece based on the text and where it's going and whatnot. So I just find more ease.
When you sit down to start composing a new piece, what's your process?
I don't think I've written enough pieces to really have one singular approach. I really do approach each piece in a different fashion. Sometimes I'm not at the piano. A lot of times I'm not even at the piano when a great idea hits me. I can remember a piece I was writing for the choral ensemble I had formed at my parents' church back in the day, and I had chosen everything was flowing so easily, I'm just going along beginning the end, and then I got to the end, like trying to set the final amen, and hit a wall. Just I could not think of anything. This particular piece, I hit a wall, and I couldn't figure out how to. I had a final amen to set. How am I going to do it? I went to a symphony concert. I wish I could remember exactly what when WSO concert it was, but I'm sitting there. I think it was the second half of the concert, whatever symphony was playing, and all of a sudden, just boom! The ending just appeared in my head. It's just like I said, oh, and I didn't even know. I guess I thought I was focusing on what I was watching, but I guess I wasn't. But the light bulb just hit right away. I had the perfect ending for that piece, and it was the perfect ending. It was and it happened at a symphony concert. Totally unrelated to what I'm watching, and that's how I'll never forget that. That was that was the perfect ending for that piece. So that's how sometimes it'll happen. Sometimes it'll happen at work, or at the office I work at, or sometimes it'll happen walking from wherever in your car. You never know where the inspiration is going to happen. And I think the best ideas I've had have really been away from the piano. I have to say, just the initial theme or melody or whatever. I really think the best ones come away from the piano. I guess you just have that vantage point where you're not looking at any keys, and it just comes naturally, kind of thing. I don't know. But this particular piece, the Lament, I don't remember having any moments like that. I think I was at the piano for the whole thing, but it seemed to flow pretty well for me for that piece. I don't know why. So I don't really have, and sometimes I'll start in the middle. Sometimes I'll start with the ending. I can remember a song where I had the perfect ending before I had sort of the middle developed. So it just, each piece does have its own challenge and its own approach, for sure. Yeah.
What do you do in those instances where you have that idea that comes to you, and how do you jot it down somewhere, or what do you do in a situation?
Sometimes, yes. A couple of times when I thought I had something that I really liked, I'll just find a pad and paper and just do a quick little staff and and write what I think it is. I mean, I don't have perfect pitch, but I'll write down what I think the melody I'm thinking is. So I'll do my little staff, make my own little staff paper and write something out. Other times I'll just keep it in my head. I'll just okay, I'll just hum this till I get home. and then I'll figure it out in pianos. But I really think is to work it out. So sometimes, no, I don't walk around, I'm not Beethoven. I don't walk around with a little notebook or anything like that. I think like no notebook for ideas, just, you know, any scrap of paper will do if I need it.
So could you walk us through some of the key features and compositional elements of Lament?
Well, as you mentioned before, it is for string orchestra. So unlike pieces such as, you know, you can think of the Samuel, like if you think of other works for just single works for strings in a sort of in a slower type pace vein, you can think of, you know, the Adagio for strings by Samuel Barber comes to mind, or something like the Lyric for Strings by, you know, the African-American composer George Walker. Both of those pieces started life out as a string quartet, right? And then was expanded later on. But this is not the case. I definitely, because I was writing this for chamber orchestra mosaic, so I knew I had 4 violas, I had 2 basses, I had the string. So I was definitely writing it for a string orchestra. One thing I knew for sure, that it was going to feature the viola, because I played viola. And the viola also has that beautiful somber quality, which just lends itself to a poetic, you know, it's just a beautiful poetic and mournful sound that I wanted. So I just started off with viola, and I knew I was going to sort of end it with the viola. But I do make sure that the main theme is shared throughout the various parts of the orchestra. So every section of the orchestra does get to play the main theme at some point in various ways, sometimes hushed, sometimes more dramatic. And a simple ABA structure. The outer section is sort of like the memorial, just sort of gives just a memory of the event that sort of occurred, or the feelings thinking about that event. And then the middle part, I try to actually focus on trying to highlight the event itself, trying to highlight the chase a little bit, the French chasing after the indigenous people, then them leaping at Soltaires, leaping off the cliff. And that's sort of when the first and second violins really take charge there. And then it sort of all kind of builds together and when the full orchestra does these dramatic chords, and then we sort of go back again to that A section, as I mentioned, A section, where the violas take the lead of the melody. And then at the end, I sort of have this chord that's sort of suspended for a while. And then the violas sort of have their moment, another moment by themselves. And I was thinking the other day, you know, what is the meaning of that particular chord? I really don't know if there is any particular meaning. It just musically it worked for what I wanted to do. And but maybe you can think of this particular suspended chord as, I was thinking, maybe this chord sort of represents the French sort of looking down in amazement at what had just occurred, at the fact that they sacrificed themselves, and looking at just trying to understand this scene, the sight of what they were looking at below the cliff there. That's how one can interpret it, but it could be interpreted other ways, I guess. And then at the very end, the basses finally get their statement of the main melody, and I have the first and seconds play harmonics. These harmonics could be interpreted as the souls of the indigenous, of the Caribs people rising, that souls rising. You can interpret it that way. So yeah, so that's an idea of the piece anyways.
So are you planning on attending some of the MCO rehearsals? If you have time.
Oh, I'm making time. You have to make time for this. I haven't had that position very often, watching somebody else do your piece. It's kind of a bit of an out of body experience when both times the piece has been done, you were conducting it, and now you're just sitting watching somebody else, and you have to sort of relinquish your. I have no problem with that. I'm really curious to see what Maestro Pelicano will bring with his interpretation, and to hear the excellent performances by the strings of the chamber orchestra. I mean, to have a fully professional ensemble, you know, one of Canada's best chamber orchestras do your piece. I mean, that's you know, definitely. And it's not just when they're rehearsing my piece. I'm going to go to a couple other rehearsals where some of the other pieces are being rehearsed, because I want to get a sneak peek into what I'm going to be hearing, and also maybe to have a chance to commiserate with the other composers. I love to meet them, and just, I love just talking to musicians and hearing, what they're about and their stories. Yeah, I'm definitely going to attend a few rehearsals, and both performances for sure. I mean, to have your piece done twice, I mean, in 2 days, selective days, that's I can't ask for anything better than that. So, and it will be online. I mean,
Yeah.
I've already I made sure that people back in Grenada hopefully have a chance to. Well, I made sure I've already let people know. I know my mom, my parents, they're both from Grenada, and I know they've been in contact with people back there and let them know about the virtual performance. So, and just in the Caribbean community in general, just let them know about that. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure, and enjoying just the whole concert again. I have to say, I'm really not just excited that the MSO is performing this piece, but that they're doing it on this program, like to do it with Randolph Peters and Julian Grant, Gabriel Darmus, this rising star. I mean, I just love being on this particular program. I can ask for a better program to be on. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. For the audience, what are you hoping they'll experience at the concert?
Well, I hope they experience the same thing I'll be experiencing, was just, listening to contemporary works and with the composers there, and just experiencing the different styles you're going to hear, and this is the perfect town for that. We have a definite thirst for contemporary music here, and I think this will give people that are into that, which there are a lot of people in Winnipeg that loved hearing contemporary music, give them a chance to hear that again at this concert. I have to applaud the MCOs that they're, I'm as grassroots as grassroots equals me. I'm as grassroots. I'm a prairie, born in the prairies. I live here. I've had, like a lot of people, other experiences, but in terms of music, I mean, in terms of compositionally, my music has been only performed only done in Winnipeg. So, so for them to take on someone whose music is not internationally known, like these people, or either nationwide known or internationally known, or these well-traveled international composers, and to choose me, who's just, a very local person, it's I find it quite astounding that they're doing that. And just I'd like to thank the MCO for their belief in me in this piece, and I feel very honored to have this performed.
Nice to speak with you, meet you finally. So we'll see you in March.
Yes, for sure. Can't wait.